Sequences and series, we're on converging geometric series because we're adding them together and they converge when I keep on adding something, but it's lesser and lesser and lesser, so it converges into a certain point. So, they're asking me this question, they say, when I look at it just like it was there with all those terms, I couldn't say that it was converging, but they say, for which values of P will this converge? The moment that you hear those words, it will converge or it does converge, you must know what?
R is bigger than negative 1, smaller than 1.
Right. Is that with the mark?
Yes.
10 to 1 not. You must first give me the
R.
R. And the R is what?
3 brackets P plus 1.
Only P plus 1.
Ah. Achieve.
What have I timed everywhere? So, and how do I test it? It's T2 divided by T1 is equal to just the bracket. T3 divided by T2 is just the bracket. Do you see it? Timing by the bracket, just the bracket squared. Timing by the bracket becomes to the power 3. It's just the bracket that was your R part. Okay, now say for instance you did say that and the 3 in the front there, that was wrong, but then I can carry on with it. If you then calculate correctly your P value, I can still give you marks because you got the basic idea right. Your mistake was you got the wrong R.
Yes, ma'am.
Alright, so now to find your P, just take the 1 to that side, it's minus 1 and it's 0, minus 1 and it's negative 2, and I'm done. How many marks for the sum? Just about 2. For the whole thing that you said that the R must be between minus 1 and 1, and then for your answer. Maybe 3, but more likely just 2. Next question says, if this is a converging series, then again you know it does converge. So the first thing that you write down is again R. And this time what is R? Do you agree that it's x over 5? I agree as well. Because if you divide that by that, you get x over 5. And if you want to ask it this way, times this by x over 5, you're going to get x3 over 5. So that's what you're timing every time, and to check it, it's the second over the first, the third over the second. And then to find my x, times by 5. Any signs swapping around? No, because it's not negative. So it was 5 and negative 5. Remember, if you did, for instance, say this question was x over minus 5. If it was, what would you have done? So that would have been plus, and that would have been minus, and my signs? And do I leave it that way? Please not, if you want to, please ma'am. But they would actually mark that correct for you, because it does say that x is bigger than, and x is smaller than. I just like it if we do the mathematics perfectly. And put the negative 1, the lesser one on the left-hand side, the more one on the right-hand side, and that this is always 2 smaller than signs. It's just bigger. Okay, that was the first question, and that would have been 2 or 3 marks, but then it didn't stop. They said, if x is now 2, then please go and find me the sum to infinity. So if x was 2, what would this look like? That would mean that if x is 2, the a value was 10. And the R value?
2 over 5.
2 over 5. So your R that you already knew. Now another way of doing it, and you might have felt easier on it, is to actually go and write it down and say that the series was 10. And then for the next one it was?
4.
Are you sure? If you times it by 2 over 5, right? 2 over 5, you get 20 over 5, which gives you this 4. And the next one, if you times again with 2 over 5, are you happy on that? Times with 2 over 5 all the time. R then is actually 2 over 5. I've written it that way. You didn't have to do that. You could just go immediately and say sum to infinity was. And then you could even say A was 5x and then substitute the 2 in. and R is x over 5, and then substitute the 2. Are you with me here on different techniques of doing it? Substitute the A with 5x, substitute the R with x over 5, and then in here substitute the 2 places of x with 2. It's fine. So your A value then would be 10. And the answer, please?
50 over 3.
50 over
3.
Done. Again, how many marks? About 2. Maybe for the substitution, one extra one, whether you wrote it or wrote it in here, doesn't really matter. Good. Okay, this is something that they really like to ask, and either you're going to know it from now on or you're not. It's actually very easy once I've shown it to you. First thing they say, I'm giving you Sn. Now this is not the Sn that we're used to, we know formulas. But in other words, they've already applied it. This is a general formula for some or other series. They're telling me that I get in of the Sn by saying n squared minus 2n. So if I ask you for S8, what do you do? Yes, excellent. You just substitute your n with 8. And what's that going to be? Please? And that's it. How many marks? No, it's 10 times 2. For knowing that you should substitute and giving me the answer. But here comes the tricky part, or the knowledge part. After today's knowledge. Find me term 8.
Use the.
All I have is Sn. That's the formula that's been given to me. How do I find the 8th term?
Ma'am, is this a
I don't have the sequence, the series. I must find the 8th term. So this is what I'm teaching you today. So when I do have S8, I'm saying that T8 will be when I take the sum of 8 and I subtract the sum of 7. What's the difference between them? What's the difference between those? It's the 8th term. Add term 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Add to term 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. What is the difference between the sum of 8 and the sum of 7? The 8th term is the difference. You must catch it. You must catch it. Whenever I want the term 8, and I've got Sn, not in other sums, in this sum, now that I know a formula for Sn, this means I added all 7 of the first terms together. I added all 8 of them together. What is the difference between these two? What is added to the S of 8? The 8th term. But it must make sense to you. You must grasp it. It must fall into your heart and your mind. That the difference between the sum of 8 and the sum of 7 is the 8th term. Because that's the difference between the two. Now, so in other words, after teaching you that, you first got to go work out the sum of 7. That's why they asked me for the sum of 8. So I've already got it. I just need to find the sum of 7, which is going to be exactly that same sum. 7 squared minus 2 times 7, and give me an answer, please. Is it 35? Yes. Okay. So that then I will tell them, I know, to find term 8, it would be the sum of 8 minus the sum of 7, guys. But that is a thing that you've got to grasp in your mind. That if I do that, the difference between the sum of the first 8 and the sum of the first 7 would be this 8th term. It must make sense to you. So now, if I go write that down, it will be 48 minus 35, which will give me 13. Done. But this is something that you've been taught now. So now, I could also ask you another question. There is another question, I'll get to it just now. Can I not find the whole sequence this way? Or the series in this case? How would I find the series? Wait, how would I find the first term?
Isn't it
S1? That sounds silly. Get me the sum of the first term. Is the first term.
What?
Does it make sense? If you just find the sum of one term, that will be the first term. Silly. That would then be 1 square minus 2 times y is? Right? How would I find term 2 then? First, you're going to have to find S2. Okay, which would be? Is this the second term then?
No, you minus it.
The term 2 would be S2 minus
Okay.
term 1, which will then be 0 minus 1, giving me 1. I'm getting somewhere. So my series starts looking up as -1 and then 1. Now we've got to double check because I can't just assume anything. I can't assume it's geometrics, whatever, because it looks kind of like a little bit quadratic. Can't say that. Okay? So let's get on with it again. To find the third term, you're going to say for S3, you're going to find
S3 minus S2.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, let me know.
You see? Okay, which means that term 3 would be S3 minus S2. Guys, are you getting this? Okay, that would then be S3 was 3 minus S2. Okay, don't get confused with term and S2. S2 was 0, so that would be 3 minus 0 is 3.
Yes.
Okay, I think we've got the pattern here. So this would mean that the series would continue by doing what? Adding 2. So the next one would be 7, etc., etc., etc. Now because I have it here and I want to prove a point, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Am I right? Am I right? What did I prove? That the 8th term was correct by doing this thing that ma'am has just told you, because you cannot go and do this if I'm asking you for the 110th term. If I ask you now for the 110th term, what would you have to work out? Term 110 would be? S 110
minus 109. Okay.
Oh, excellent.
Okay.
Because you cannot do it this way. Well, you can. You can now go and work out the actual 110th term if I actually got the series here together. Many ways to do a sum. But this is a shortcut when you have an SN formula. It's a shortcut to know that if ever I want the term number, but all I have is SN, then I can do it this way. Does it make sense? Because now the actual sum was find the last 3 terms. Find the sum of the last 3 terms. So obviously I have to find the last 3 terms. But now, I didn't write it there. They did say this series has 15 terms. So if there are 15 terms, and they're asking me for the sum of the last 3, I obviously need to go find 2. 15 and 14 and 13. How? Is this principle. Now they won't ask you the same thing 17 times in a paper, but we're trying to get to a point here. So if I want the sum of term 13 and 14 and 15, we're going to do exactly the same principle now again, because this was not necessary, right? But if I did it, could I now go find term 15 by saying a plus 14d? How come? Because I'm busy with arithmetic.
Yeah.
If it was AR to the power 14, it was geometric. But I can definitely see that this is arithmetic. So you see, the square could have taken you off course and you thought maybe it was quadratic. It wasn't. You must make sure. Now I can see that it is arithmetic. So that's why it's A plus 14. Can I do it that way? Yes. What did they want you to do? Because they didn't want you to go and get all of this. They wanted you to go get term 15, 14, and 13 by doing this principle of the 15th term would be S of 15 minus S 14. Are you with me, guys? I don't want to erase it. I want you to see it. So for term, this is actually the 4th one. So for term 15, you would say S 15 minus S14, so that we can get that whole thing and you leave us. Are you with me that you could do it another way? If you actually got the series like this and then got the 15th and 14th and 13th term and give me the answer, there's nothing wrong with that. But we're trying to practice this point. So that S15 then would be 15 square minus 2 times 15 minus then 14 square minus 2 times 14, which would give me an answer. Are you with me? Now I'm doing all together. It looked a little bit better when I did it this way. Separate, separate, then get the answer. Now it's all one shot, but you must it must make sense. So T15 is S15 minus S14, and T14 is S14 minus S13. But now I'm thinking, if I did my job and I showed everything, then I've already got S14 there. Now I'm going to do it twice. Oh no, I don't want to do that. Guys, it's up to you. You can do a double, you don't have to. Because if you write it down like that again, 14 square minus 2 times 14 minus the 13 square minus 2 times 13, and just give the answer without any showing of calculations, that's perfect. And again for term 13, so it'll be S13 minus S12. Which is 13 square minus 2 times 13 minus 12 square minus 2 times 12. Can somebody please help me with these answers?
The first one is 27.
27. Next one, somebody there already?
25.
Again?
25.
25.
I will check that.
You see it? Because there has to be a pattern, guys. Alright, and then it's 23 plus 25 plus 27, giving me 75, I think. Okay, it's not always going to be this elaborate, but the main thing is, if you've got an SN formula and you want a TN formula, you can use this method. If we want to get nice mathematically, we can say to find TN. It would be Sn minus Sn. Yes, exactly. But I didn't start with that because that just looks way difficult. But it's a principle. If I have the Sn formula and I want Tn, you take that Sn of that same amount minus the previous one Sn. Does it make sense to you? Very mathematically written out. Nobody's going to ask that of you, but if you wanted to be very smart and write it like this, that's exactly what you do. Right.